The city agreed to sell a part of Helmrich Park at 71st and Riverside about 2 years ago, but it's been wrapped up in court. And I want you to look at this building. Chris and I are over here in another section of downtown. You have pieces of brick that have fallen from here, landed in the street. As they're getting inside one unit and cutting through the wall and literally going from unit to unit. Right, 2 people have been shot and they were rushed to the hospital. You can see the police scene right here, but this scene is actually one of 2. Look at the debris. It's come up this high. I'm about 5'5", 5'6", so you can tell how high the water level got. Police have just cleared the scene in about the last 10 minutes, so although this section was blocked off, you can see traffic is running smoothly. And even though these child crisis detectives work a lot of child abuse cases, they say this one will haunt them. Cracks like this all along the walls and ceiling, and down on the ground you're going to see the bits of mortar. Luke Sherman and several members of his party are here right now setting up the room. The game's been going on for about 62 minutes and Tulsa is leading the way. Lee the horse logger and his trio of horses are calling Hominy home for tonight. But for the last 10 years, they've been traveling across the country.
Trunk or treat!
Hello!
This 3-year-old Rapunzel is the only trick-or-treater walking through the Holiday Hills neighborhood this November.
Trick or treat? Well, honey, the treat is all mine.
Oh, what do you say?
The other kids got their candy fix almost a month ago, but Rapunzel, also known as Molly, couldn't make it back then.
That's a lollipop.
You did get lollipops.
4 days after her October 16th birthday, she was admitted into St. Francis Children's Hospital.
She was diagnosed with pneumonia 4 days after her actual 3rd birthday. So what turned into a 28-day stay in the hospital was originally only supposed to be about a week in the hospital, which turned into multiple surgeries, a few complications.
When she was released from the hospital, her only concern was Halloween.
A skeleton.
A simple Facebook post was all it took to make it happen.
The response was overwhelming. I mean, within about 15 minutes, there were 60 houses, 60 families that offered to let us come over and trick or treat.
Molly's mom, Stephanie Strait, says during her hospital stay, Molly was stuck in bed and had little energy. That spunk she'd been missing is back. Just enough to make sure News on 6 photographer Chris McNamara keeps it moving.
Come on.
He's coming too.
So from house to house she goes.
Happy Halloween, dear.
Picking up the treats she almost missed.
I don't understand why they didn't call me.
David Lewis says knowing his children are part of a child sex abuse case is hard. Even with his wife's support, the tears keep coming.
In my mind, it's just, if I had taken them when I left, this would have never happened.
Lewis says he and his children's mother broke up years ago. We're not naming her to protect the children's identity. For the past 3 years, even with equal custody, it's been a struggle to see his kids.
She had to talk to Brian and see what Brian said before she would do anything.
Brian Campbell is the man police say courted women to get close to their children. Now Campbell and these 4 mothers are in jail. Lewis says getting his children back is challenging.
It just tears me up. And the fact that DHS never tried to contact me.
DHS representatives can't talk about this case, but generally when children are removed from the home, the offending guardian will give a suggestion on another family member who can take the children. If that family member passes a background check, the children are placed. Lewis says the maternal grandmother has the children. Right now, since the children are undergoing major counseling, he's been advised to hold off on fighting for them.
Never thought that my kids would be wrapped up in something as sick and as vile as this.
17 holds a special significance for former Marine Anthony Marquez. As the chainsaw blade spins, it carves memories of each of his 17 comrades who lost their lives in battle.
On our deployment to Afghanistan, we had 17 guys that were killed and over 160 wounded.
Marquez served 2 tours as a K-9 officer. He's seen and endured a lot, but nothing prepared him for the pain of losing so many friends. Though he's no longer bearing arms, he bears the lasting pain along with his chainsaw.
I guess you could say it's somewhat a healing process. I mean, it takes a lot physically and emotionally.
He's transforming those emotions into battlefield crosses.
It's hard. I mean, it's challenging.
With just a few months of experience, he's been able to transform big logs into something beautiful. Each cross takes about 16 hours to finish.
I would guess this one probably weighs about 150 pounds.
So far, he's made 3. He's already given 1 to the family of a fallen Marine. He's sold another. And this one is being auctioned to raise money for a veteran who lost his home in a fire. But the main focus remains on the 17.
My goal is to give one to each family.
Faye, Alice, and Dink weigh a little under 2,000 pounds each. They are Suffolk Punch plow horses. Instead of tending to the fields, they tend to their owner, Lee the horse logger.
August 9th, 2006, my friends dumped me on the west side of the Rocky Mountains, and we started traveling. And the adventures began from there.
In 10 years, Lee and his horses, multiple have since retired, have traveled over 16,000 miles, all the while pulling a nearly 8,000-pound homemade wagon Lee calls home, taking breaks when they can.
This is what these guys are bred to do, and they like doing it.
Lee and his team are on the road all year, looking for logging work where they can find it. Before becoming a countrywide traveler, Lee and his horses were loggers in Montana, but he lost his job in 2006 when 70% of the timber industry crashed.
I have to have a job. I like driving horses. Don't need a whole lot of money, just enough money to keep them fed.
He says it's not always easy, but if you love it, you'll make it work.
We've made it. We've done a lot of little jobs. We've done firewood jobs, do whatever.
Lee says the work he does is hard, but his biggest challenge is making sure he and his horses are fed. You can find out more information about Lee and his trio of horses over at newson6.com. Reporting in Hominy, Katiera Winfrey, News on 6.